all of you that I've invited anyway to be here today. I think it's important that the message get through to everyone involved. Today, it's an honor for me to have, for the first time in the city of Dunkirk, as my guest, the Commissioner of the New York State Office of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse Services. And this is Arlene Gonzalez Sanchez. So one of the things that has happened since I've taken office here over the past year is that I've been approached by many concerned citizens who have been dealing with this epidemic about the lack of services that we have here in the northern end of the county, and most specifically here in the city of Dunkirk. Recently I went to Albany and I expressed my concerns. I did meet with the commissioner and I invited her to come out to Dunkirk so she could hear firsthand from some of our citizens the same thing that I'm hearing. And so she is here, and I would like for everyone here to voice opinion openly because this message has to get through to Albany, and the commissioner is the way that we're going to get this message out there. So again, I thank you all for being here. I'm going to open up this roundtable discussion now, and I'll let the commissioner take it.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much, Mayor. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here. I want to acknowledge the county executive and, of course, the LTU, Pat. Thank you for being here as well. Thank you each and every one of you for taking time to be here and openly have this discussion with me. You know, I've been going around the state, as so has the Lieutenant Governor and our Governor as well. This is really an issue that's not only in New York State, it's throughout the country. And it's very important for us to hear firsthand from folks. It's easy for people to stay behind and sit behind a desk and get information. That's not what we're about. We really want to come out, see for ourselves firsthand what are the needs, and how can we together as a group work to resolve these issues? This cannot be just one person. So the idea here is to enter into a dialogue and for me to get ideas from you of what you think are some areas that we need to look at and address and work together to ensure that we get those things done. So thank you so much, and please, this is not a formal, please be yourselves. This is an open, constructive meeting, and, I hope that, you will share, with me sincerely what your focuses are, because I'm here just to really try to help.
Can we do an introduction, please?
Yes, please.
I'll start, Mayor Rosas.
Hi, I'm Gregory Ray, I'm president of the Jamestown City Council.
My name is Kim Carlson. I'm Alex Folk's mom. I'm also the founder of A Fresh Start.
I'm Reverend Waller, Pastor Waller, Friendship Missionary Baptist Church right in the corner.
Todd Crandall, Superintendent of Schools in Silver Creek.
Dr. Tracy, I'm the Superintendent of Dunkirk City School District.
I'm Ariana Quinones, I'm a Dunkirk Middle School student.
Kevin Kearns, Vice President for Engagement and Economic Development at SUNY Fredonia.
I'm Sue McNamara, teaching college business in SUNY Fredonia, but also spent about 12 years heading up our local Department of Social Services.
My name is Lily Sutton Lechko. I'm a parent who lost a child, and I'm here to support the mayor.
Hi, I'm Ed Ramos. I'm the city clerk, City of Dunkirk.
I'm Roberto Rosas, retired New York State Trooper.
Dr. Rosas, Planning and Development, City of Dunkirk. A very frustrated, tax-paying citizen of the community. Been inundated with calls in the Planning and Development Department. I'm happy to be here in support of Mayor Rosas' proposal to bring a clinic to our City of Dunkirk.
Good afternoon, Dave Ortolano, City of Dunkirk Police Chief.
My name is Ron Hall. I've been active for a few decades in this community, a number of elected positions, now I'm a private citizen business owner in the city of Dunkirk.
I'm Linda Ray Amaran, a volunteer with Literacy Volunteers for about 20 years. We tutor adults who need to improve their reading, and we deal with many people who are recovering and sometimes relapsing drug users.
My name is Tom Turner. I'm just a community member that's been active in the southern end of the county with regard to MHA and some of the issues and problems that are going on in the communities.
My name is Mike Tremuta, credentialed alcohol and drug counselor, and founder of the Rational Emotive Behavioral Therapy Group for 9 years in Dunkirk.
I'm Mike Mizagara, retired, the father of a child that I lost.
Jim Quattrone from the Sheriff's Office, and recently opened up the Pecan City Mission in Jamestown. And unfortunately, Saturday, lost my nephew to a heroin overdose.
Director of Planning and Development, Rebecca Yanis with the City of Dunkirk. Kat Brinkman, Director of Mental Patient for Chautauqua County.
Vince Horgan, County Executive.
Esteban Ramos, Special Assistant to the Commissioner.
Patricia Zubu Wilson, Director of Government Affairs and Federal Policy for Commissioner and OASIS.
Jan Prine, Buffalo Field Office of OASIS.
Randy Woodbury, Dunkirk City Engineer, and also adjunct to SUNY Fredonia Geosciences and Environmental Science.
And I'm Lori Cornell, Governor's representative for the Southern Tier. Thank you all for being here.
And Lillian A., Dr.
Dr. Nate?
Oh, yes, thank you. I am Lillian A., that is true. And I am the chair of the Mental Health Association Advisory Board in Jamestown. Thank you, Vince.
We have people over here.
And I'm Rick Huber. I'm with the Mental Health Association in Jamestown, New York.
Sean Harper, retired New York State Trooper, member of the Friendship Baptist Church.
Arcellera, Iglesia Getsemani.
David and Luz Morales, Gethsemane Church.
Can you introduce yourself, sir?
Mr. Robbins.
Dale Robbins, Chautauqua County Mental Health.
Who would like to start off?
I will. Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody else? Go ahead. I'm a parent. I lost my son 7 months ago. One of the biggest problems that I had to get him help, that there's nothing in Chautauqua County, and my son came to me asking for help, and there was no room in Buffalo, and the only place that we found over there was 30 days. They didn't offer mental health in that place. My son suffered for bipolar 1 depression, severe. So we ended up finding a place in Glenville, which was like 7 hours away. And it was very hard to travel there because it was 7 hours each way. From there, he was transferred to Olean, again, 2 hours each way. Over there, he was receiving mental health treatment, getting his medication, was there for 18 months, and he was doing very well. Once he came back home, he went on his home as his own, looking for mental health treatment. The doctor who went to see, it was more like judging him because they really don't understand that addiction to drug is different, like from other addiction. I'm supporting the mayor to bring a clinic over here because it would be a lot easier it will be people that has the knowledge and they really can help these children that we're losing. Something that I would be close to home and not to travel to so far to get help for them. I also want to say that because my son was a young adult, suffered from mental health illness, I couldn't make decision for him. And when they are in a very deep depression, they cannot make the right decision and go for help. And everywhere I went, the doors were closed to me. So it should be a law or something that can allow parents, relatives to make decisions for them and to get them treatment. Even though they refuse, we should be allowed to do it. I tried many times and the door was closed. Once again, having a place, a clinic over here in Dunkirk, it will be a lot easier for people to get help and not to travel so far.
So it was mental health with addiction?
My son was diagnosed with mental health when he was 9 years old. He already, so far he saw 5 psychiatrists. While he was in treatment, he did very well, able to get a job, get friends, go out. My son was never a young man to be in bars or doing anything like that. He was able to get a job, but again, once he stopped taking his medication, started self-medicating again, and I lost him because I couldn't do anything because he was a young adult. And I'm here, it is too late for me and for my son, but there's a lot of family there that's going through the same thing and they cannot get help for them because they're adult. And we need that.
Yeah, unfortunately, thank you, and I'm really sorry for your loss, really. You know, that issue comes up a lot. Age, and you know, I go to a lot of places and parents always say, you know, what are we going to do? What are you going to wait for my child to commit a crime and then get forced into treatment or what? Unfortunately, those are civil libertarian laws that we do not have control over. You know, on the mental health side, there is Kendra's law, which will do just what you're asking. You know, if someone is at danger to themselves or other and are found to be at danger to themselves or other, you know, they could be retained in the hospital for up to 3 days for evaluation and so on and so forth. On the addiction side, we don't have that. It's very difficult to do. What we have done is there's a law that was very old in the records, on the records. And when I came on board 6 years ago with the governor, we started looking, and you know, a lot of folks didn't even know we had a law that would allow us to, I don't want to use the word hold, but take someone for the sake of an evaluation for up to like 2 days. And now we have expanded that for 72 hours in hope that, you know, we could get the individual to accept treatment on the addiction side. There's a law already, Kendra's law, that exists on the mental health side. The problem really comes in when you have the duals, that you could only enforce one side and can't enforce the others. You know, we have also, this coming year, in you know, this year's budget, we're also proposing 10 urgent care centers throughout the state. which will be 24 hours, 7 days a week centers. The idea is when an individual says, I'm ready, I want to go to treatment, or there's a parent that convinces a loved one, because it doesn't have to be a young kid. Sometimes, our kids will be 30 years old, they're still our kids. And you convince them to go into treatment, and then you'll have the issues of where. We don't have the appropriate individuals doing the assessment sometimes. We don't have the beds, the hospitals can't do it, so on and so forth. These urgent care centers will be designed to address that population, whether it's at 3 in the morning, 2 in the morning, because people don't just decide to go to get help between 9 and 5. So we're very, very sensitive to that. And as I said, in this coming year, part of the governor's executive budget includes 10 of these centers throughout the state. And with the idea that if they work, we will continue to promote this kind of system. So there are a lot of things that we're trying to do, very aggressively, to try to start addressing some of these horrendous issues that sometimes is really out of our control because legislation is really old. We've also renovated a lot of regulations that were really outdated for insurance purposes, access to care, because that's another, piece that I hear a lot, well, insurance is not going to cover. My private insurance won't do it. And, So there are a lot of things that we have been promoting, and the governor, with the landmark legislation he put into place 2 years ago, are now really evolving. Now is that we're seeing the outcomes, because it takes a little while. But there's still a lot we need to do. That's why these levels of discussion are extremely helpful to me, because every region is different. Every region has a different experience. Everybody cannot be the same. And so that's why these discussions are extremely interesting. So, thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, you're very strong to come forward. I really appreciate your sincerity, and I'm really sorry for your loss. And the fact that you're here so that other parents don't go through what you went through is really something that I need to acknowledge, and thank you for that.
You mentioned when you came in 6 years ago, the 24-hour, hold somebody to 24 hours or 2 days. What, I'm not sure. Then you kind of moved on. So is there something in place?
There's no law on the books that was in place, and it was never enforced. But now we've looked at it, and now the proposal is to be able to expand it to a 72-hour, where an individual could be taken. It's not forced. You can't force them. Okay, you can't force them. It's not legal to force them, but you could strongly recommend and convince them. Maybe a parent could take and say, yes, take them somewhere for the purpose of being evaluated, and hopefully then, getting them to accept treatment. See, the issue is you can't force someone to get addiction treatment against their will.
Commissioner, if I could, and first of all, I want to thank you for taking time to come down to Western New York, and I know several parents in here, and I'm a parent of a 22-year-old and 19-year-old, and it's all I can do to hold it together for your story. So I wanted to just, if I could, give a perspective. So I'm a lifelong resident of northern Chautauqua County. I live about 7 miles down the road, very rural, graduated from Brockton. I was an educator in Mayville for 10 years. I was a principal for 2 years in Forestville, and I recently have been a principal at Fredonia High School, which is the next town over, for 14 years. Now I'm the superintendent of a school right down this way with 1,100 kids. So I'm just bringing an educator's perspective. I spoke with my own children, and I spoke with our school psychologist and the school psychologist from Fredonia, and then I realized quickly I don't need to bring numbers because you have data and numbers to support. I can name no less than 10 students that have passed away in the last 3 or 4 years after graduation. 4 parents the last year of students that are presently in school have OD'd. Unfortunately, we heard of a story just this past weekend, so I apologize for that. But interesting part, you're very astute, you spoke about when there's an opportunity, when someone has that minute second that they want help, we don't have that help. Our county is broken into Jamestown, Southern, and Northern Chautauqua here. So when we faced all these issues in a public school as a high school principal, there just really is not a lot of places to go. I'm also a believer that when you have problems, you need to bring suggestions, and I somehow can't wonder, and that's why when you said this urgent care center, if we couldn't establish something locally in the city of Dunkirk that would service northern Chautauqua County. I saw the article in the paper a month ago, and I called the mayor just to lend my support, and that's why he invited me here, because as you said, this urgent care idea, it's critical. If you have somebody in a weak moment that says they want help, to act upon it at that point. Maybe some sort of satellite office could be even supplanted here in the city of Dunkirk, which would serve all of the northern lakeshore here for assistance. Perhaps they assess them here and then they can transfer them to Jamestown or to that Erie County, Buffalo area. I don't know, I'm just brainstorming with you because right now there's nothing. I could sit here for the next 12 hours and tell you stories that you can't get mental health help. You can take them to Lakeshore Hospital, which is towards Buffalo, or we could go to WCA Hospital in Dunkirk, and 99.5% of the time they're going to be released. I'm not passing judgment or blame. It's just a reality that they don't keep them. I don't know the answers, but it's pretty exciting to have law enforcement, counselors, and parents, and everybody sitting here saying, what the heck do we do? But I do know, last, and I'm done with my thought, there's 4 big variables. Financial support, flexibility, the support of everybody about, but the 4th thing, anybody that does any research, is going to be the location of the facility. I think we're in dire need to get something locally in this area if we can.
I'd like to say something. I think that, when you talk about urgent care centers, and it's all a great idea, it saves lives, but it saves lives immediately, it doesn't save lives long-term. And what we've lacking, and what we've always lacked, is long-term care. Time has proven that addiction isn't something that you're going to get over in 30 days either. 30 days gets your head straight, might give you the beginning of some hope to try to do something longer term, but in the end, what we need are facilities where these individuals can go into immediately and they can have 6 months to 12 months to 24 months worth of services to try to really solve the issues in the disease.
That's a great point. I mean, I think there is a tendency of when we talk about addiction, I'm not sure it's the same for mental health, but more for addiction, that we just focus in on treatment. And it's not only treatment, I agree. It's prevention and it is recovery. And on the addiction side, recovery is an ongoing, thing. It doesn't end in 2 years, 3 years. And so what we're doing is we're looking at the whole continuum, not just treatment, because you're absolutely right. You have someone that goes away for, let's say, 2 years to a long-term inpatient treatment or a residential treatment. When that person is ready to come back into the community, what supports do we have in place to be able to maintain that individual stable in the community and sobriety? So, we have been focusing a lot. We've opened a lot of recovery support centers for that reason throughout the state, and we will continue to do so. I mean, I've been spending a lot of time in Western New York, doing just that, opening these innovative recovery support programs, because it's very clear, it's not just treatment. Once you go through the treatment regime, you go back to the community, you need those supports. And you also need the prevention piece. I think we need to start prevention very early on in the schools, really early on.
Yeah.
So we see it as a continuum, so thank you so much for that. Question? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
He goes in there.
Who's number one?
Yes, hi. Commissioner, I'm Rick Huber. I'm with the Mental Health Association in Chautauqua County, located in Jamestown. And we are a peer recovery support center. And first, let me say I'm a huge fan of the governor's program, stabilization, treatment, and reintegration. And I think there's stuff that needs to be done in each one of those. We just recently got a detox down there working with UPMC, WCA. That hasn't been in existence all that long, and at times it's still hard to get into. The reintegration part is one of the things we do, and that's one of the things I see lacking. You know, because like with the Methadone clinic where they have to go to Buffalo, they're gone all day, and they don't get back. So, I mean, there's no chance to even work with them here, let alone reintegrate them into the system. What Tom Turner said and what Superintendent here said, long-term's needed. I mean, all that's needed, but I've said this for a long time, until we can get treatment to compete on the same level as the dealers, where you can call your dealer at 2 o'clock in the morning because they have their cell phone and they'll deliver it to you and even, you know, even front you for it. And that's one of the reasons it's made us successful is because we're on call 24/7 and they can get a hold of us. A parent can call us at 2 o'clock in the morning, which happens frequently, and we'll help them. But here, and we know the way it works, you know, you have to call Monday through Friday certain times, and then maybe you'll get an appointment if your insurance checks out, and that's what happens. And we have to look at it from a perspective of mental health and the addiction at the same time, because if we don't, most of the people we work with have trauma in their background of some kind or a psychological disorder, and they're treating it with illegal chemicals instead of the treatment that they need. And I think we could see a huge decline in that as well. I just did an in-service at Faulkner School for their system, and this came up frequently that they're seeing. So the governor's program, the community-based program with the stabilization, treatment, and reintegration is totally, as far as my perspective, on the right path. Now we just have to take it and really put it into effect here and broaden it.
Madam Commissioner, my name is Mike Tremuta. I taught in this community, coached in this community. In the last number of years, I've run a program in this community for recovering people. If this is about money, we're in the wrong place today, folks, because people are dying. I came through the 80s. I've counseled for 38 years in chemical dependency. I'm probably, besides you, the oldest guy in here. And in the 80s, we did not have people dying of overdoses like we are now. Basically, one of the problems, and I'm going to tell you what I think, why we need this clinic. First of all, we have waiting periods in certain clinics. If you call, there's a 2 to 3 week waiting period. Oh, we had an overdose this past weekend where this person wanted treatment, was told we're shut down for 2 to 3 weeks before you can come in. In certain clinics, and I'm not mentioning, I'm smarter than that, at 76, I'm not mentioning names. You will see a counselor maybe in 2 months, and by the time you start a group, it'll be 3 months. All right? So that alone is crazy. And how would everybody in here like to ride a bus 4 hours a day to Buffalo to get a sandwich?
Right.
We're asking people 7 days a week to go to Buffalo, as Mike's daughter did, for methadone, when we can set up a methadone clinic here. And don't tell me about Suboxone and Vivitrol and the shots they get, because you also have to go on a Suboxone list, if you're not aware of that. Before you see the doctor, you have to go on the list to see the doctor. If you're 38th on the list, you buy it off the streets and you deal or you steal. I hope you understand that. I worked in a halfway house for 5 years at Cas Manor, where I worked with the most severely retarded, heroin addicts that ever lived. And about 60% of those guys are still sober today because we did something in treatment. Was it always easy? No. It wasn't always about love either. It was about, you're not going out for 30 days because you just relapsed. So basically, that alone. Then for the Spanish population, we have very few, if any, Spanish-speaking groups and clinics run by Spanish-speaking counselors. We have interpreters, but if you're not aware of what the group dynamic is in chemical dependency, that's how people get better, basically by that group. And so basically we're lacking that, because I know that we have to prove to you that we need a clinic here. But you know, to me it's unbelievable, because it should be like, when are we going to set it up? Not that we need it. We know we need it. Heroin addiction is completely different. I was a young counselor who treated heroin addicts like alcoholics. Folks, it's not the same. Heroin addiction, we were taught in the early days that everything is treated as alcoholism except heroin. And basically it took a long time to understand that, because there's a ritual involved. And if anybody knows and they've watched people use, it's a ritual. It's different. And basically, they will do anything at that point to tell you, oh, I want treatment, I want to get better. They do. Unfortunately, the drug is very powerful. Another thing is the treatment and levels of care. In some of the clinics, we let people continue to relapse, and a counselor told me, who had a heroin client, well, if I send him to the next level of care, his family will suffer. His family's suffering now. Are you kidding me? Basically, we always went, if you're not going to make it an outpatient, you go to inpatient. If you don't make it an inpatient, you go to halfway housing. If you don't make it an halfway housing, you go to supportive living. We had people at Cas Manor in treatment for 6 years at times who were sober though. So, you know, we're dealing with something not like if, when are we going to get this? Because in the city of Dunkirk, probably 10% of the people that are sick are getting treatment. That means there's 90% of the people to go around for whatever clinic there is, and the new clinic. You know, I remember one time I was at Tri-County, and we were accused of trying to pick up people and get them from Jamestown or Faulkner or wherever. They didn't have rides to treatment, and I made the statement and got blasted for it. Isn't there enough addicts and alcoholics to go around for everybody? There's a lot of people that we don't even know about that aren't even in treatment. 10% of them get treatment and 90% don't? I mean, are we kidding ourselves?
That's right.
So, you know, when the mayor asked me to come here, I got, at my age, I'm going to say what I think. I've seen it. I got 38 years experience. If you want to come and talk about treatment, please come and see me, because I'll tell you what, I've done it, been there, and watched people get better, watch people die. I turned the corner on my street this week with my wife and I on Saturday night. There were 200 people out on the lawn. And a young man, 25 years old, overdosed and died on the corner. And like I said, how I started this, this is not like cocaine. People are dying. In the city of Buffalo, we had 24 people die in 3 weeks of overdose. So, Madam Commissioner, I hope you would take this and think about it, because there's a need for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Somebody better
Yeah,
handle
choose.
Okay.
Well, one thing I wanted to add to that regarding the methadone clinic, there are so many things to say, but there's a lot of people here, and a lot of people have a lot of things to say. One thing I want to add to that, in addition to the people traveling all day long to go to Buffalo, the expense on the county too, because of sending the people, plus the fact that they can't work, et cetera, et cetera. And how can you take care of even a family if you're gone 8 to 10 hours? It's hard. But we have pregnant women who are addicted. Our county has a high percentage of babies born addicted, and of course the stats will show that. And one of the major hospitals doesn't do regular type reporting, So that would be really helpful to have a methadone clinic close by to be able to treat these pregnant women. I mean, I am a physician, but not OBGYN, but I understand that it's used and in a very favorable way in pregnant women. So I just wanted to add that. I mean, that's a medical thing that's important.
I'm glad you raised that because that also is a priority population under the federal government sanction.
Good, good, good. Thank you.
Yeah. I can be the bad guy directing her. I think Ron Hall and then
I'll go now.
the chief.
I'm following up some of these experts, but I do realize a common theme here is the treatment. There is the urgent care. To go to Buffalo, we keep hearing that, go to Buffalo, go to Buffalo. Let me ask you this. If you had the opportunity to stay here and do your drugs or take a bus ride to Buffalo and back, and I've spoken to people since the mayor asked me to come here, who do that. And I'm very worried that they're not going to stay on that because it's going to take a long bus drive to Buffalo. We need a clinic here. We need one because the problem is here. It's not just in Buffalo. The state does not stop at Buffalo yet. Sometimes we feel that out here. We need a local clinic that address this local problem. I've watched this community. I've watched what's happened to it. And the best efforts of the Southern Tier Drug Task Force, the police chief, the sheriffs, and the rest of them, it isn't state solved. We need to catch these kids before they, not all kids, before they die, and we don't have a clinic. I wouldn't take a bus ride anywhere, let alone to Buffalo for like bites on a sandwich. We really could use a clinic in this area.
Yes. Ma'am, again, thank you for coming. I'll address the best I can the law enforcement side of it. Myself personally, from what I've seen, I have 33 years on the job, 12 as the chief of police here in the city. I think the approach is three-pronged. Of course, we have the enforcement end of it, which we do on a regular basis. We have officers assigned to the drug task force. We do as much enforcement. It's a priority with us because we see what it does to the community. People that are addicted to these drugs, they steal to get what they need. They do whatever they have to do to get their fix, which in turn destroys quality of life in each and every one of our neighborhoods, not just in Dunkirk, but every community across the state and the nation. I know in recent years, Narcan has become very popular, but I'm here to tell you, I know personally of cases we've dealt with where people have been given Narcan 5, 6, 7, or 8 times.
Yeah.
It's not solving the problem in some cases. It's inevitably allowing them to do it again, which is an issue. I know on the law enforcement end of it, we will continue to do what we have to do every single day to try and put a stop to it. I believe education is the second prong of this issue. I think it should start in first grade and go all the way through high school. Every single day, you have your reading class, you have your math class, you have your history class, you have drug abuse and awareness, bringing people in, counselors, victims, family members, people, such as people who have lost children or loved ones to this issue, and teach them from a young age. The easiest answer to it is if nobody bought the drugs, we wouldn't have the problem, but that's not going to happen. It's not going to go away that simple. The education aspect of it has got to be a major part of it as well. And then the third prong of it is comprehensive rehabilitation. We run into the same repeat offenders time and time and time again. I know we have a drug court, we have a district court here in the city that does the drug court program. Very effective, but a handful of people participate in it, and 5 or 6 at a time is what they can handle through this program. That's, as you said, that's not even touching the amount of people that need this help. Yeah. We need to have a comprehensive rehabilitation program. We're arresting these people, getting them into a program. They go in for 15 days or 30 days, they're back out. It's not long enough of a program or of a period of time for them to really, they may need it for the rest of their life. And it's something that I think we have to address here. There's, in just Dunkirk and Feronia, not including the outlying towns, we have 30,000+ people in these 2 communities that are connected right here to where we are. For us to have to send people somewhere else, they're not going to go. if it's local, I think you're going to see a much better participation in this if we have something local. I spoke with the mayor earlier today about an issue, and I'm just going to throw it out there. I know there's a grant out there that the governor just allotted for a new hospital in our northern Stockton County area. What a perfect time to maybe have rehabilitation, because we need comprehensive rehabilitation. Here's a great way to maybe put this all together and give people here someplace to go, not just for 30 days, not just for 60 days, have it available to them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for the rest of their life. If they need it just once they're out, maybe they go for 90 days and they feel like they can reintegrate back into normal life again. But if they feel like they're relapsing and they need to get back in, we've got to have somewhere local right here where they can go.
Yeah.
I'm Mike Menzagera. I'm the father I lost a child. So many people in this room. And I fought this with my daughter for 11 years. She told me she died at 25. And she started at 14. We talked to her. She was in Jamestown twice. I got no use for it. I'll tell you that right now, because it did absolutely nothing, in my opinion. It was over in ECMC, that 72-hour deal you talked about. I wouldn't raise my hand and be proud of that, because if you do, you're in the land of Oz. It's useless, because them kids know all the answers to get back out on the same street. I fought with ECMC when she was in there, and I told them, after they chased her down, got her in there, told her, you find a way to keep them there. If you can't find a way, there's going to be a funeral. Well, guess what? There was a funeral. Let me say something. Like that lady said there, once they're over 21, you can tell me about these great privacy laws and everything else. Something has to be done, for a blood parent can help these kids. Get them in there, at least for a period of time, where they can clear up and think, and have a way that when they get out, they have support to help these kids. Because I'm tired of people telling me, well, we can't do nothing because of this law. Well, we could create the darn law. Why can't we do something to take care of it? Modify it, to help that lady, to help other people in this here room. Maybe, and I'm not saying it would have been happened, maybe my daughter would be alive today. Went to the Methadone clinic. She was traveling with another friend. Lost 2 cars because of bad weather. Total. One of them was T-boned down the skyway. Not her fault. In that accident, the friend lost a leg. Going there back and forth just to get that Methadone. Lady, I don't want to tell you, if you lived it and you lost one, maybe you'll understand what it is to lose a child and what the anger is. And I'm angry because I look out there and everybody can wave the flag and say, well, I'm doing this. We're here, we need treatment. We need it. But more important, we gotta find a way for prevention. Take care of it at the core so it doesn't have to get to this point when we go down to the local funeral parlor. That's what has to be done. And if you ain't willing to dig in and try to get at the core and work at the prevention end of it, in my opinion, you're too late. It's an epidemic out there like you ain't seen. And we do need someone in this, right here in this community to help these people that need the help. So we gotta find a way to prevent it. If it's a society problem or whatever, we gotta find a way to prevent it. So we don't have to get that. It'd be a lot cheaper if we could take care of it at the beginning rather than at the end. I respect you, but don't get me wrong, I'm a little bit hostile, and I apologize for that. And I am very upset people coming to me and telling me, well, we can't do nothing about it because of this. Well, you could pass the law. Why don't you go back and look at it and see if there's a way to modify it, knowing there's an issue out there. We can help these parents, we can help these kids. What you might have thought you saved was a small percentage compared to what's going on. Go up to the cemetery. I'll bring you by one. Pictures, my kids' pictures right on the tombstone.
I have a lot of eyes on me. Let's go this gentleman, then Kia, then Kim, and Mr. Superintendent.
I'd like to thank everybody who came out, and my heart goes out to all of you who lost anybody to the opioid addiction that's going on there. It's a crisis. Now, I did like to talk about recovery for a moment. And recovery in the broadest sense is one addict helping another to go through a part of their life that the addict, the first one, has gone through already and has some type of knowledge, but not just knowledge, because it is also contagious when you can see somebody who is in recovery and that person has substantial time and you are sitting in a brink where you know that your life is in danger, and the only person that can help you is somebody who is in recovery, but that person can be in Jamestown. And if they tell you to pick up a phone, call somebody, and it works if there's somebody nearby you that you can go to. In Buffalo, the recovery centers, as you're walking down the street, you can see people outside and they're recovering together. And they will bring somebody in off of the street and they will put their arms around this person. And they will take you in and show you where to go, and this is how you get from point A to point B. And of course you have inpatient and you have other types of treatment. But the biggest thing is to have a recovering addict have access to people that can help you recover. And Jones Hill is an awesome place, and they have that. The communities around, the neighborhoods around Jones Hill, if somebody's in trouble, they know where to go. They know that they can walk a half a mile down the road, and there's somebody there that can help them. There's a group of people that there that can help them, professionally trained, and then people with the life experience to do this. I luckily fell into a good place, and I'm here today to talk to you. My mom's not here, but she could have easily been here addressing you folks about things that have happened to one of her children. Okay? This is very near and dear to me. We need something here locally. I have some recovery that I can pass on to other people that I can help with, but there's nothing here in the area that even can help me by helping somebody else. We need something here in the city, and if for nobody else, to help me.
Kia. I just wanted, my name's Kia from the Mental Health Association, and thank you for being here as well. But I just wanted to state how much stigma is associated with medicaid-assisted treatment, and it's been shown for people that are suffering from addiction and mental health problems. I mean, we're creating a population of people that have a health condition that need it treated, but they also need the support. This morning I had a lady email me that was a Fredonia resident and did not know where to turn for her daughter. I gave her some suggestions and she's following them. But, you know, there's some waiting times, but I know that when you're at a hopeless place, the more barriers we create, the less we can get someone to actually access the services. There are services here, but accessing them and following through the engagement is the piece I know that we do at the MHA, but we only can do it to a certain point right now. And I know that if you feel completely hopeless and desperate and don't want to live, you're not going to value yourself enough to even travel far. And the closer we can have a methadone program, there'd be a lot of friends I probably wouldn't have had to bury. Thank you. Kim Carlson?
I'm Kim Carlson. My son Alex Folk died on February 26, 2016. We were not aware of his heroin use. It was a double blow to myself, my family, and our entire community. Alex had a great job. He was volunteering his time, worked out at the gym, ate healthy food. He's by no means fit what we categorize as our typical heroin addict. He didn't fit any of that criteria, but nonetheless, he died of a heroin overdose. The heroin that he was using was 90% fentanyl. I never thought to have that conversation with Alex because I knew that he was afraid of needles. What I didn't know at the time, because I didn't have the information and the education that I have today, is that it could be smaller. More knowledgeable we can be and have the facts, the more helpful we can be to people. I cherish recovery because I live recovery every day. And I've been living in my own recovery for almost 7 years. Alex never went to a rehab. He never went searching for help. I don't even know if Alex realized he had a problem. I don't know if he was new to the heroin. I know that at one point he had problems with prescription pills. But so many of those things weren't discussed very much. For any mom who spent Mother's Day without one of their children, or for any father that has to spend Father's Day without one of their children, I don't think that I stand alone when I say I support whatever it takes to keep our kids alive, because you just never know when they might say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I share honestly, I shall share publicly my experiences and my story, and my son's story. The other thing that I wanted to mention is the laws that you were referring to earlier. Is that something similar to the Marchman Act? Similar to the Marchman Act. Because of what I do in memory of my son Alex, I help, I get many different phone calls for many different reasons. And I worked with a mom who was living in Florida, and her son, who they had no idea he was using drugs. He had just finished one of the finest colleges and gotten a job as a lawyer, died of a cocaine overdose. Meantime, her other child, who has had the same upbringing, same family, he's been using heroin since he was 15. He's now 23 years old. She implemented the Marchman Act and was able to have him held for 5 days and evaluated. And I think that our residents need to be aware of exactly what laws do pertain and how they can best use them. But most of all, I truly support whatever it takes to keep our kids alive. Thank you.
Dr. Tracy and then the Reverend.
Thank you for coming. Jim Tracy from the Dunkirk City School District. I agree with everything my fellow superintendent Todd said, but I'm going to give you a little different perspective. I'm new to Dunkirk, and I've been doing this business of education 41 years. So I've been around, and I've been in a lot of different communities. And one of the reasons I was glad to attend when I heard that this was going to happen is because in many of the communities that I've been in, families tend to put their head in the sand. And first of all, not even know that there's a problem or admit there's a problem. It's just a small group. It's not really a big problem. And if there is, they can go into town or to the next town and get help. One of the things you see around this table is the city of Dunkirk recognizes that there's a problem. It's a national problem. It's a statewide problem. It's a county problem. But there's a problem here. And the reason why everybody's here is because not only do we recognize the seriousness of the problem, and we're losing our loved ones because there's no place to go. You have to go all the way to Jamestown or all the way to Buffalo. And the chances are, if you're an addict, you're not going to make that trip on a regular basis. And just before I left, just very quickly, just asked my building principal and social worker, how many families do we know 100% for a fact that you've dealt with just this year that have some sort of heroin addiction going on? Your mom, dad, or sometimes both mom and dad? They said about 10, right off the bat. And that's without any research or really digging in. So now, for them to get help, they have to leave their kids, they have to leave their families. There's no alternative. And the individual that you heard that we had one of our former students pass away with heroin this weekend. That class alone has lost 5 kids. He was a young man, only out a few years. That class alone has lost 5 kids. So it's a problem that's not being solved because there is no place to solve it locally. That's the reason why I came. But I would also like to let you know there's a second piece of this. If indeed we are lucky enough to secure a clinic here, one of the things I think needs to happen is there needs to be Spanish-speaking people working at it. 52% of my kids, 52% of my kids are Latino or Hispanic. 52%, very high, much higher than a lot of the city schools in New York City. And many of those homes speak Spanish in their homes. Our kids are bilingual, many of them. It's not uncommon for me to walk down the hall and listen to 10 conversations, and 5 of them were in Spanish and 5 were in English as I'm walking down the high school hall. Sometimes it ends up being more if they don't want me to understand what they're saying. But the bottom line is, our city, anew, it's to me an amazing thing to see a community recognize a problem and want to solve it. Many of the other communities that I've been involved with in the last 40 years, they didn't even want to recognize the problem.
One second, reference.
I would ask also if you would ask Ariana and Ram to share with you at some point.
We would love to, yeah, absolutely. We would love to.
Again, Pastor Waller from the Friendship Missionary Baptist Church over here. I have about 25 years now in pastoral ministry. And I guess I'm going to say a couple of things that I'm going to relate perhaps a little bit different. I know that there's one of the person here other than myself that I'm aware. But one of the things that I see, and by the way, I want to say that we're grateful to have the Dr. Morgan to come down and be with us, glad to be here present. And for those of us that are here today who have lost loved ones, I feel your pain. I feel your pain. I feel fortunate by the grace of God to have raised 5 children, actually 6, and they all are doing well. Came through Fredonia schools, and that, not to say that other schools are not as good, but they all are doing well, and we give God praise for that. And now we are raising 3 other children, Caucasian children, that is in addition come by way of adoption. One of the things that I see, and I support the mayor's request to come today and to have a word, because I do recognize the need, and I think that we all realize there are a need. And so many times, we say, well, there's a need, but it's kind of like putting up the building out, but not in my backyard. Not my child. And a lot of times the problem is right there within our own home, but pride sometimes can be a great stumbling block, can hinder us from going forth and acknowledging what should be acknowledged. If we are fortunate enough to get a facility here, I think it's not, I hear a person once say that we should make sure there's a Spanish-speaking people involved, and I applaud that. But I think in order for it to be successful, we need a diversity community employment. Not only Spanish. People like African Americans need to be there. We need Caucasians needs to be there. Because this problem, believe it, as I'm sure we all know, is not just there's no one segment of people. This thing is broad, okay? And I think from a clergy position, one thing I have observed here in my time in the ministry is that it's a new day now. What you mean when you say new day?
we look around today and we find that our youth, other things are taking their interest. They're going away from the churches. The church don't have the impact. The church don't have the wherewithal anymore. We've gotten away from that, and we need to bring back. So we look at things. That's what we want something to sustain them, something to keep them, something to hold them. The scripture teaches us that the scripture said, the word said that he will hold them, but we got to get them there. We have to keep them there, and I see whether we have gotten away from that, and that needs to be restored. How can we restore it? I see an opportunity that can be done, but it's going to take the corporation of everybody. Laws. To say that there's so much have been taken out of, excuse me, have been taken out of the parents' hand because they said you can't do this, you can't do the other, And but yet when trouble comes, all of a sudden the child. So I really think that I really think that our laws at the upper level is responsible for a whole lot of things that we are seeing right now, really, And I think that we have to go back, replace, redo something that has been done. And I think if we do that, I think you can see a change. And I think that's what we need to do.
Ariana, would you like to
My name is Jennifer. I lost my brother to a heroin overdose in September 2016. He was released from jail just 6 days prior to his overdose. He tried to get into programs. There was waiting lists. My daughter actually did a project on she wrote a letter to the chief of police, and she met with him, and that we need more services around here. So it just kind of hit home because it was September 9th she started her project, and September 18th my brother passed. So I feel like there should be something so they could transition from jail to, a service here. Because just going to jail isn't going to fix you, and he's been struggling since 2003 with his addiction. He's been clean, he's been, he does good, and then he relapses. So, and he tried to get into programs, even the one in Buffalo. Well, 2 weeks after he passed away, the clinic of Alba Vita from Buffalo actually called me because I was his contact and said there was an opening. So it's very heartbreaking to us. So my daughter, she's old enough to know what's going on, and we're very supportive of the clinic in Dunkirk.
Then Hector, gentleman in red, Mr. Huber. I think somebody else is deciding, and I wanted to make sure we gave Jamestown City Council President Greg Grab an opportunity to speak.
Ariana wanted to read her
Like
letter.
to. Oh, I'm so sorry. Please.
I think she wrote to the chief of police and to the senator.
Oh, he's thank you for Senator.
Hello, my name is Ariana Fernandez. I'm 12 years old in 8th grade, and I go to Dunkirk Middle School. I'm writing to you about Dunkirk's irresponsible drug usage. I'm writing to you about this drug problem because drugs have affected my family a whole lot, especially me. Even though I am 12 years old, I live in a generation where I understand more and I'm educated on the usage of drugs in the news, newspaper, and peers. I've lost family and friends due to drugs. I am very concerned about this problem. Drugs are a big problem in Dunkirk, New York, especially. I want my letter to inspire you and even others to really consider thinking more about this problem. In hopes my rehab, drug, and alcohol programs or good sources to help lower or even stop drugs with being dealt with in most family households. Over time, understanding addiction is hard to overcome. Those programs and rehabs are an excellent idea for those people who struggle with addiction. Rehab could and will change their lives forever. If someone wants to be sober, they will become sober. I want you to recognize my reaching out to you because I care about this problem and my loved ones very much.
Thank you. I just want to add on to that. After she wrote me that letter,
keep it in contact. I had her come into my office and we sat down for quite an extended period of time and we talked about a lot of things. And I did forward letters, and I wrote a letter myself to Senator Catherine Young in reference to this issue, asking for any help that we could get specifically on these issues for education levels, for treatment levels too. So I'm hoping that.
We received a letter back from her.
And so I'm hoping every little bit helps, and I give her a lot of credit for stepping forward to find young lady.
Thank you.
Randy has to leave, so he's just gonna say something real quick and then I'll go.
Okay.
I really appreciate Hector letting me jump ahead. I apologize for the attire. The reason I'm here is because I left a state Superfund site where we're cleaning that up because of the mistakes of our ancestors. We're spending millions and billions of dollars to clean up the environment because that environment otherwise would kill us. If we can spend millions and billions of dollars on past ancestors' mistakes, we ought to be able to spend a little bit of money on things we know about now. Our ancestors didn't know they were making a mistake. We know we're making a mistake. A very wise former director of environmental health told me, Randy, we will not be known by our successes. We will be known by our failures. And I would like to say thank you to this person for the successes. And because we failed, we owe this man a big hug and is forever. And I lost someone who was equivalent of a niece or a sister not very long ago. The mayor asked me to come in. It's the most difficult thing he's asked me to do. I'm out cleaning up a Superfund site. This is more difficult for me to do. And we lost that person. For 23 years, she was effectively my niece and my younger sister. The 23 was the end of it. I did not want the end of that. If I could contribute the rest of my years to her, I would do that. Let's take the mayor's idea and if we can fix Superfund sites, we can fix this super problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Commissioner, first of all, I want to welcome you here. I want everyone to know that I work for the mayor. The mayor happens to be my brother. I'm a 35-year employee of the city of Dunkirk. The mayor asked me to go with him to a conference, which I didn't know was the largest to be held on an annual basis in Albany. It was a Somos conference. Every hotel in Albany was sold out. A lot of people there. I asked the mayor would I be able to talk and relay these messages that are left on my answering machine from Hispanics in the community who they can't get to a certified translator. They bring documents to my office because when they pass WCA office, they got to pass my office that says Hector Rosas, so they know I speak Spanish. When they come into my office, I have to translate those documents because they don't have a certified translator there for them to be translated. When I went there to Albany, because of the efforts of Mayor Rosas, I had the liberty and the privilege of raising my hand. Mayor Rosas said it might be 50-50. You might get picked on to relay your question, you may not. Well, thank God, the most senior Latina person there in the State Assembly, Carmen Arroyo, who's been there for decades, got to hear me speak. From that moment on, I knew that we had something going here. The Mayor Rosas' dream to bring the clinic to Dunkirk is possible. I'm thankful for your presence here today because you've heard our community. We're a tight-knit group here, and this is our community. And there's blacks, there's Puerto Ricans, there's Caucasians. They've all lost family members. We've got your attention here today, and I want you to heed advice. Listen to our calls. Bring that clinic here to Dunkirk where it belongs. That's all I have to say.
How you doing, Mr. Commissioners? An honor to have you here, and an honor to be able to speak from law enforcement and having seen the effects of overdoses, having worked here in this area, knowing the commitment chief over there for years, working with these two gentlemen for years. We're talking about sending people from Dunkirk, Fredonia to Buffalo with an addiction problem. Having had an addiction myself, I know you can travel from here to North Carolina and try to satisfy your addiction. I could get off the highway anywhere in this country and find out whatever I wanted. You think they're gonna leave here and go to Buffalo and go get some methadone? No. Between the time they leave here and go to Buffalo, that urge is gonna hit them, and they right there on the west side. They're gonna find their heroin. They've been leaving this area for years, traveling to Buffalo and Erie, buying heroin and bringing it back here. And they have no place to go. They have nothing. Buffalo for methadone? This is crazy. You're allowing these people to die. They're literally gonna die. Because when they leave, they get on the thruway, exit 59, and get off at exit 53. They 6 miles from their first injection. That's Niagara Street. Working the thruway, I got off at Niagara Street. There was a Bronco at the corner of Niagara Street and Virginia. It sat there for 2 changes of the lights. I investigated. The gentleman was in there in the throes of an OD. He was from Fredonia. He had a medicine bottle full of packets of heroin. Buffalo PD showed up. I turned the case over to them. But they've been leaving this community, going there to get their heroin. Do you think they're going to leave this community, travel that same road that they travel every day to go get their heroin and stop at a methadone clinic? I know it's a rhetorical question, but I had to ask you. They're not going to do it. They're going to leave here, go to Buffalo, and go right to their source and come back. But if they have some place here that they can go 24 hours a day, and they have that urge that I need help, they can go around the corner. It's not the same road that they've been traveling. But when they travel that road to Buffalo to get their heroin, the first thing they're gonna do is get off at that familiar exit. And they're gonna get their drugs. And then they're gonna travel that road back. And they're gonna be in a hurry. I'm from the hood. Yes, the Lord blessed me with a job. But I'm from the hood. And the hood knows, they hear, oh man, 3 people died. Let me go try that.
That's right. That's right.
Let me go try that. I might be the one who survived. We have to have something here. You can't send them to Jamestown because they've been making that trip too. That's the trip, that's their short trip. They just got paid, they got a little bit extra money, they going to Jamestown. It's the middle of the week, they ain't got as much money, they gonna go to Buffalo, it's cheaper. You gotta know what you're dealing with, and you're dealing with an addiction. And my girlfriend was my addiction. Their girlfriend is their addiction. They'd rather have their addiction than a glass of water. So you think they're gonna travel that road and go get that can help them? Or they're gonna travel that road and get that thing that has helped them get to where they at?
Thank you so much. Mr. Huber, thank you, sir.
Excuse me, I'd just like to speak. I've been listening to everybody here today, and there's some great stuff coming out. We have a peer, like you were talking about, a peer recovery center where people that all work for us have been there. In order to work for us, you have to have a mental health diagnosis, you have to be a recovered addict. Those are the stipulations, and that's the population we reach. We have a Hispanic peer recovery coach on our staff. The reason I'm bringing this out is that we've needed a methadone clinic in Jamestown and Dunkirk for a long time. We've tried to get up here with our organization for a long time, but we can't get funding for it. We get a small amount of funding from the state. 90% of our funding comes from local foundations down there. We get $0 from the county. And yet, we've grown over the years, for myself and Kia, to a staff of 13. I spent all morning on the phone with recovery centers from Albany to Hudson Valley to find a place for a guy that got out of detox down in Jamestown so he wouldn't go out tonight and relapse, and finally found one in Pennsylvania. And that's the kind of stuff we go through every day because it's not available here. And there's no excuse for that. It needs to be available here. People are dying. I myself have done 3 funerals in the last month and a half for people in Jamestown. And I probably have to sit down and count how many so far this year. A lot more than are being reported. It just doesn't get reported. And that's a shame too, that we don't even have proper statistics to go by. I happen to have the pleasure of facilitating Kim's son's funeral. This stuff shouldn't happen. We have people dying every day that don't need to die because they're stopping getting their heroin because they got to go to Buffalo. We should have methadone clinics here. We should have everything available to us. More Suboxone doctors, more Vivitrol available, and methadone clinics in each one of those 2 cities. And it can be done. It can be done if the will is behind it. And that's what it's going to take. It's like I said, the funding is going to be a fight. We get all ours locally, most of it from local foundations, a small one from the state. Nothing from the county. I mean, think about that. And how much we've grown and how many people we touch and have phenomenal statistics that we can show and still can't get it. Why? We got kids dying, and that's wrong.
Speaking of the long road ahead to Buffalo, I know we need to let the commissioner get back on the road soon, but Commissioner, we haven't heard from City Council President Greg Rabb yet if he wanted to add something on behalf of Jamestown, and I saw Dr. Nay's hand again?
Yes, please.
Okay, am I missing? Yes, and the chief. So, am I? I'm promoting you, I'm promoting you. But I know a lot of families came with very personal stories. Are we forgetting anyone that came here to speak today if we close with those 3?
Councilman Gonzalez here.
Councilman Gonzalez, yes, absolutely, from the city of Dunkirk.
Thank you for coming down. I appreciate you coming down here to address a problem that is very dear to me, in the sense that not only am I a councilman, I'm also a pastor at our church. And we see this problem happening, in our churches. We see it happening with our families and so on. Most of the time, a lot of families, especially when they're involved in church, they're afraid to mention what's going on in their homes. They're afraid to reach out and help. Most families, some families, don't even know where to get help. Or some families don't even know that their kids are having these kind of problems here in the city. What I want to address is the need. If we don't start doing something for these kids right now in the city of Dunkirk, by the time, as most people spoke here today, by the time they go and get help in Buffalo or in Jamestown or whatever, they're not going to make it. They're not going to make it. Parents right here are looking for help for their children. And I think that a lot of people, Mr. Tamuda, I thank you for speaking out and for helping all these children throughout the years. These are people that are taking their time to take care of to look at this problem and try to address it. For many years, we've been putting it under the rug in the city of Dunkirk, in the sense that some people don't want to get involved. Some people don't want to see a clinic nearby. And the other problems that we're having within the county is that some are fighting for funding for it. I need funding for my end of the town. Why I need funding for my county down in Jamestown or whatever. But we have to look at the problem and not look at the politics of the problems. We need a clinic here. We have parents here that are close to me in the sense that I've seen children grow up as neighbors. Children that grew up next to my house that you would never think that they were having a problem with drugs. And their parents probably didn't know they were having problems with drugs. And when you read in the paper, or somebody tells you such and such person passed away because of opioid problems, that hits your heart. That hits your heart because you've seen these kids grow up. You never expected this to happen, but this is happening. This is serious. and we need to address it, and we need to address it here in the city of Dunkirk. Thank you for coming down.
Okay, Dr. May, Lieutenant Quattro, and then President Rab will close us out if that sounds okay to the commission. Okay.
Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
Real quickly here, regarding the modification of laws. I mean, the tragedies around us are so overwhelming, but I think I wanted to mention two things. The modification of the law, the people who are addicted, they're incapacitated. You know, there's all kinds of anatomical and pathophysiological changes in the brain. So really, if they could get at it that way, they may be able to have parents able to help. This happens all the time. The COBRA laws are nuts because it's one thing not to make a decision for a young adult, but it's another thing not to even be talked to and gone over the treatment plan. It's very sad. The other thing is, if only the departments that you work with in Albany, I don't really know how it goes there, but there's the education department, there's mental health, there's public health, and if a solution to figure out what to do can be done with the communication between those departments instead of having silos, I think it would make a difference. It's an epidemic that we're dealing with. I mean, our schools in Jamestown need mental health clinics. We have them in some, but it's always difficult to start one up, especially in the middle schools and in the elementary schools. I hate to say that it's needed, and the anxiety level in many people, especially in young people, is in an epidemic form. And as Rick mentioned, and as you mentioned, there's a lot of dual diagnosis. I mean, we talk and we hear terrible stories and you go home crying, but it's the solutions, of course, that we're going to depend on you to help us out. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lieutenant Quattron?
As the chief said, the real chief.
You're promoted now.
Yes.
I think it's more than a three-pronged approach, though. And I think, as Dr. Nay was saying, is we have the solutions in this room, and we have the solutions within the state. There was a famous philosopher, a basketball coach, who mentioned, I don't know if it was his original quote, but it's amazing how much work can be accomplished when nobody cares who gets the credit. And if we can work together, John Wooden, yes. And that's one of the things, and I look at our faith-based community, and, as Pastor was speaking, I just think of, in the book of James, tells us to be doers of the word and not just hearers of the word. And I looked around this room, and we have a lot of people dressed in suits. I don't know how you normally dress, but are you getting in the trenches? I was introduced into a lot of this through the MHA. Is kind of a desire to help, and I joined them down there, working alongside of them, and have branched out a little bit. We have a residential center now, trying to, but it's amazing. About half the residents we've had are Spanish speaking, and none of our staff speak Spanish. So I'm relying on some help from the mental health, their peer counselor. But I think it's got to be an entire community working together, and not pointing fingers, not casting blame, but working together. All ages, all races, all genders, and you name it. And that's when we're going to see some lives can be changed.
I should probably actually be calling you sheriff, right? Don't tell Joe. Thanks.
No.
And to close us out, if that sounds good with the mayor?
Is there anyone else that hasn't spoken that would like to say anything?
Let me just say, if they would ask me to conclude, because I heard everybody, saying almost the same thing because of the need, and everything I think circle on that. But needless to say, that we need a treatment center here in Dunkirk. Thank you.
President Rapp.
Thank you. Commissioner, I know the mayor and I and others around here go up to Albany all the time, so whenever somebody from Albany comes down to talk to us, I think I can speak for everyone, that we really appreciate it, because we know how far that is. This is a long way off. But what I wanted to add is that there's probably, I think, at least half a dozen of us from Jamestown here to support what the mayor is doing, because I think we understand that this is not a Dunkirk problem, it's not a Jamestown problem, it's a Chautauqua County problem. And if something can be done here to help the people in this area, it's also going to help the people in Jamestown. And I think that's the main reason we came up here, because we certainly want to support what the mayor's doing, and we certainly want to support what you're trying to do to help us. You know, I needed to be educated on this because this is not my background, and it's slowly but surely become my concern because people like Kim were brave enough to speak out and always wanting to support her. Rick has on more than one occasion told me what I'm not doing right. I've learned a lot from Lillian, and so I needed to be educated. But you know what struck me the most was about 3 years ago, my other job is a full-time professor at Jamestown Community College. And it got so bad in our area that I needed to get Narcan training and have that little pouch sitting in my office after being at the college now 32 years, but in the last 3 years I had to have a Narcan pouch there ready to go. Unfortunately, I've never had to use it. But that's when I realized things had gotten completely out of hand. And I know our sheriff and our police officers, you can just pick up the paper every day and see them arresting left, right, and center. It almost gets monotonous and upsetting, but I know these guys are doing a yeoman's job. But what that's doing is it's dealing with the supply side. One time at 2 o'clock in the morning, I was getting ready to catch an early morning flight out of Buffalo. My cell phone rings. There was a guy trying to make a drug deal with me. I don't know how he got my number. I don't do drug deals. So I very naively said, well, this is Councilman Rabb. Could I have your name and your phone number so I can call the police? It was a stupid thing to say, but he immediately hung up, and of course his phone number was blocked. But this is crazy. I'm getting calls at my house on my cell phone to make drug deals. So we know it's out of control. But more importantly, it's the demand side. We're losing young people, older people, because this is a sickness. It's an epidemic that I've never encountered. When HIV came out, I did a lot of work on that, and this is a totally different epidemic that's just consuming us. And I know the mayor and myself and others spend a lot of time trying to rebuild Chautauqua County and Dunkirk and Jamestown, but you can't rebuild a community when people are dying and people are sick. And we're losing people that we need. It's bad enough that you lose someone close to you. I can't imagine what that's like, because it hasn't happened to me. But what I see is that we're losing people that could build this future of this community, and we can't afford to do that. So thank you again for coming to Dunkirk and helping us.
So I guess I just want to wrap up. You know, thank you again for inviting me down. I heard what you're saying. I've taken very good notes. You know, a lot of the things that were said, I didn't want to interject, or there are a couple of things we could do. There are other things that are going to be a little difficult to do, but in the interim, we need to make changes to the things that we can impact change in. Changing rules and statutes and regulations is going to be difficult. And may I add that it's always good to have my counsel next to me, because he looks at me and he tells me, but he's not here. So he's I have the regional rep, but you know, some of the things that, you know, I sort of like pushed very early on when I first came on board about changing rules and regulations, because as you very well said, you know, when a person is under the influence, they are at danger to themselves or others. But try convincing civil libertarians about that. It's not easy. It really isn't. But that has been discussed, believe me, and it has been pushed. And, you know, I will continue pushing as much as we can, but there's just so much, you know, we could do. Maybe this is the right time now. I don't know. But I didn't want people to think that we had not thought about that. It's something that we had thought about, because it's really, you know, when I have family, parents, who say, you know, what are you waiting for? You know, and that's usually my question back to some of the people that will vote in favor of it. It's like, okay, but once that person commits a crime, the civil libertarian stuff goes out the door, and now it's a crime, now you force them into treatment. So, I just want people to understand, you know, we understand that, but there are things that we have to deal with. Those things are going to take much longer to deal with. However, what we can do in the interim is work through the access issue to ensure that access is available, to ensure that individuals that do need the care have the care, you know, that people are informed. I mean, it's amazing how many people really do not understand what's out there, what's available, what they can and cannot do. You know, those are things that we need to work together to ensure that people are well aware. You know, I'm glad I came. You know, every time I come to a different part, I hear different things. Underlining, it's all somewhat the same, but it's rewarding to hear the passion. The different here, believe it or not, is that usually when I go to different parts of the state, I usually get pushback from people who say, I don't want that clinic in my backyard. I'm not hearing that here. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. But usually I get a lot of pushback. What I'm hearing here is, we need help.
Yeah.
This is our community.
Very good.
We want to work with you to ensure that our community gets the help. So that's different. That's very interesting and different. And so, you know, I will work with the county, the mayor, all of you. We'll continue to work with you to see what we can do to help the situation here in Dunkirk and in the region. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I just wanted to, again, thank the commissioner for coming out. I invited her when we went to Albany, and she said she would come. To be honest with you, I wasn't sure that she would keep her word, and she did. And I'm honored. But I would also really like, from the bottom of my heart, like to thank all of you for coming out. It's important, and I'm proud to be mayor, to see the community come out in support of such an important issue. I think that we have delivered the message today to the commissioner, and I hope that she takes that message to Albany and makes the right decision for this community. So thank you all for coming.